Let the meltdown begin. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network. I am Gabriel Morency. Let's do this thing, Hall of Fame style this evening, as Ken Shamrock has been very vocal as of late as far as the UFC pay structure, the lack of respect that Dana White gives to the fighters. Ken Shamrock gives his side of the story this evening on MMA Meltdown. Joey Odessa will join us. We'll take a look at Bellator as Chick Congo and LeVar Johnson will have an opportunity to square off for a Bellator heavyweight championship if they're both successful this Friday night. I've defended Bellator in the past, and putting it in football terms, I've compared the UFC's the NFL, Bellator is the CFL, but the Bellator cards have been so crap as of late. I don't know if Bellator is really even the Arena League anymore, but as you know, I'm a degenerate gambler and I bet on the Arena League. Hell, I'll bet on Arena too if it comes down to it. So we'll be laying it down on this Bellator. Bellator's saving all their best fighters for the pay-per-view. Bad freaking move. We got some great videos of the week this week as well. We got Shamrock, Odessa videos. Your tweet, should Okami have been cut? All that and more on tonight's MMA Meltdown. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. I am Gabriel Morency, and it's been a couple of weeks that we've been playing phone tag with a man who has been in the news quite often as of late. I've really been looking forward to this conversation that we're going to have with the world's most dangerous man. The one and only Ken Shamrock steps up and in. Ken, welcome to MMA Meltdown. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
No, you know what? I've been looking forward to this. We've spoken in the past, but it was years ago, and that was on satellite radio. First time on the TV show. And, hey, you've been in the news quite a bit recently. I've said before, there's no bigger keyboard warrior than the MMA fan. And, you know, I've noticed you've been seeing that a lot in the last couple of weeks, huh?
That is the truth, man. Some of the things these guys say, the information that they don't have, and the ignorance that when they say something with no background and no history, it's just sometimes amazing.
Are you like, and you know, I can only imagine. There's just so many douchebags on the internet. So are you at home like wanting to punch your computer, or do you sort of like breathe in and breathe out? When you're sitting alone and you're online and you got these kids chirping, like how angry are you actually getting?
I don't. I learned a long time ago. And the fact is, I wouldn't even read any of the stuff. I wouldn't pick up a phone and check anything when I was fighting for a long time. And some of my fighters would do that, and they would get so mad. And I was like, why do you do that? So it takes away from your focus. And so I just wouldn't do it for a long time. And then when I started getting towards the end of my career, I started learning that, you know, there's a lot of fans out there that would love to know what you're doing. So I started getting more involved with that. But you have to understand that we're creating this. It's like boxing when Don King had his organization. We're letting people come in to represent the sport. So what kind of fans do you think are going to start following the sport? If you've got a guy at the top that is dropping the F-bomb, and every time you ask a question or get into a debate with him, he tells you, F you, dirtbag, or F you, I'm going to crush you. That's what we're creating. It's the same thing that boxing went through with Don King, when Don King wouldn't do business properly. Then the fighters start talking that way, and their education of what people say. Just not too long ago, and I like Nick. Don't get me wrong, I like Nick Diaz a lot. But you can't, call somebody the N-word. It's just, I don't get it. We can't let this stuff go on. We've got to start checking ourselves. We've got to start policing ourselves. It won't be around. Nobody's too big to fail. Nobody, except for the government.
Yeah, and they do a good job at failing on their own, right? But
right. But
Ken, you raise a great point though about what you said about, and I've never heard anyone say this really. And speaking to Dana White, as you stated, when Dana's saying screw everybody, and even fighters after, well, he's boring, he lost, that's why we caught him. It doesn't matter, screw him. I guess it makes sense, and I've never heard anyone say it before that that's going to be the mentality of the fans who are really mini Dana Whites, who want to be Dana White, so to speak. And you'll never see any other league. you know, people criticize the NFL and people don't jump online to defend Roger Goodell. People criticize baseball. People don't jump online to defend Bud Selig. And it seems like Dana has done a great job of somehow of influencing the fans and the media for the most part as well. You know, I mean, 80% of the MMA media are scared of them.
Well, that's the reason being for that is because Dana takes an active role in telling people they can or can't do something, whereas Roger Goodell basically sticks to football. Bud Selig sticks to his business. They don't go outside of that and tell fans or media, you know what, if you don't do what I say, you can't cover us, or we'll crush you, because the media is too powerful there. They can't do it. The media and the fans don't realize how much power they truly have over this organization. They understand that this guy is a one guy, and the only reason why he's making what he is making is because they're paying for it. Why is he getting all the coverage? Because the media is covering it. This is a powerful tool, and yet they still stand around and let this guy slave him around. You imagine if all the media go, okay, jackass, we're not covering you anymore. Nobody is. So what do you think of that? Or the fans go, you know what? We're not going to take this anymore. You can go ahead and do this on your own. And all the little ponies that drop the F-bomb and tell me to prove themselves, they can pay your bill. I promise you his tune will change.
Now, do you blame the media? Do you think the media is a little bit too complacent in defending the UFC? Do you think the media shares the blame here?
I don't. Listen, it's like the fighters, like GSP and Jones and a lot of these guys who are fighting. I mean, this is their livelihood. This is what they have to do to make money. And right now, there's nowhere for them to go to help back us up. If they do that, they can get cut, or they don't make the money they make. So, because I was there, and if I was in their position, I would have a hard time walking away from the money I'm making because I have a family to support. I have a livelihood, and this is what I've chosen. So it would be hard for that. And same with the media. I mean, some of these MMA media upstarts, I mean, they're just starting out, and this is their livelihood. This is the only way they can really cover anything live. So I don't blame anybody who is in the MMA world right now, who are making money, who are doing what they need to do to support their families. I don't blame them for this at all. I blame Dana, and I blame the Fertittas, and that's it. These are the guys who are taking advantage of this situation, and they're in that position to do that. But as time goes, there'll be enough of guys like me, because I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now, and now I've finally got a few guys to really step up. And I know Tito's been doing it, but he was kind of under lock and key too for a little while. But now there's several guys stepping up. But a lot of guys don't even want to waste the time. They're like, that's not my problem. And they're all retired. And it's like, it is your problem. It is your problem. If you help create this company, if you help build MMA, you have a responsibility to the fans and to the young fighters coming up who don't want your help. They think that, they're doing just fine, but they haven't been down the road yet. And so we have to step up, and we've got to make a difference. Baseball did it, football did it, basketball did it, hockey did it. It happens in sports. When the owners make more money, then the actual talent needs to make more money. Because if you don't, then basically what you're doing is you're telling the talent that they're not worth your time and that you're not a part of the success of the company, which is bull, because people come to see the talent, not the people working for it. So to me, it doesn't make sense. The fighters, the talent, are a partnership with the company, with the owners, and the owners need to treat them as such, and they're not.
Now, it seems, as we're in conversation with Hall of Famer Ken Shamrock, it seems, Ken, that not only from the financial situation, how they handle their operations has upset you, but the lack of respect for the fighters. Am I incorrect in that? It seems I interpret that, you don't feel it as if they respect the fighters.
Well, listen, Dana White will go up to any fighter and tell him he's a douchebag, or cut him and say, you know what, you lost that fight, you're out of here. It's just, and then if a guy goes up and actually makes a comment, I believe it was Gustafsson, I can't hardly pronounce his name, but he just fought Jones to a battle.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them went to the hospital. I mean, they didn't even pay for his doctor bills. The guy didn't make any money after the fight. This is a main event fight. How does that happen? You got one guy in the match making $500,000, right? And even that for Jones is not enough compared to what they pulled in. You're talking about what? You got 1-2% of what was earned? That's bull. And then you got a guy who's fighting him who obviously earned his right to be an opponent against Jones. Got $8,000, $6,000 to $8,000. That right there, my friend, is slavery.
And, I've seen it firsthand as well with fighters who were told after, you've got till midnight to get to the hospital. Otherwise, we're not on the hook for this anymore. Yet, it's almost, as you stated, you got the Joneses of the world and the GSPs, and life is good for them. So they're not going to rattle anything. But wouldn't it have to take, a superstar that had, the UFC by the balls, so to speak, that says, it's not really fair. I think you should treat some of these guys better. But, as you stated, it's kind of the catch-22. They're just not going to do it because, they're getting rich right now.
Even that, too, they seem like they're getting rich, okay? But as life goes on, you know this probably, that when you tend to build a lifestyle for yourself while you're fighting, you want to keep that same lifestyle after you're done fighting. And it's just not going to happen with the money that they're making. Let's figure, Jones pulled in $500,000, all right? Everybody's going, wow, that's a lot of money. It's not a lot of money because you figure after taxes, after you pay your trainers, because trainers get percentages. They don't get like $2,500 or $5,000. They get percentages of your purse.
Big percentages.
So by the time you're done, you may walk away with half that if you're lucky after taxes. If you're lucky after taxes, you walk away with half. And then you're talking about another 50 years to live after that. It's not enough money, especially when they're pulling in $130 million and you're getting a $500,000 and one guy's getting $8,000. Come on, man.
Yeah, the guys that are doing it for $8K and even $10K and even the $16K guys, you're fighting twice a year. All right, you're lucky to make $48,000. The sponsorship money is grossly overrated as well because the UFC wants $100,000, and then you get to negotiate with the fighter. At least before, the fighter could cut a deal with somebody. Now, and I've spoken to T-shirt guys, said I can't afford to pay the money just to negotiate. You can't possibly sell enough T-shirts, so therefore you end up with the monopoly at the top. That with the tap out and whoever else they want. They made it really difficult. Now, Ken, we've heard so many professional wrestlers over the years go after Vince McMahon and say, Vince is, he doesn't care and he's ruthless, and there's so many sad tales of professional wrestlers. You've worked for both men, between Dana White and Vince McMahon. How do they compare to each other?
Well, listen, Vince is not a guy that's gonna hug you and is gonna make friends with you, and then turn around and basically lie to your face, and then cut you off at the knees. Vince is basically a businessman, and right from the get-go, he's nice to you, he's polite to you, he'll do whatever you need to do as long as you're making money for him. The minute you're not, he's done with you, and he doesn't make any worms about that. He just says that's the way it is. So you stand with him. Period. With some of these guys, like Dana White, for instance, Dana will sit there and play all nicey nice. But right there as he's doing that, he'll look at you and he'll straight ass lie to you after you just bailed his ass out from a bad situation, and he's all happy that he's moving forward, and then turn around and lie to the guy that saved his ass. That's the kind of character this guy is, and it's unfortunate because I liked him. I really did. I thought he had a great personality. I heard from his mom when she did her interview, and that's basically what she said. That was Dana White. Dana White was a likable person. Everybody loved him, and I did too. I really did. I really liked the guy. But then finding out down the road that he only used that personality to lie to me, to take advantage of me. That to me is I don't want to work for somebody like that. And I think Randy and Tito and Pat Miletich and Frank Shamrock and Quentin Jackson and all these other guys who have worked for Dana that were world champions for him all have felt the same thing. If you get two guys that were in your organization that were world champions, and they turn around and badmouth you, you might have a personality conflict. But if you get 12 guys that turned around and badmouth you that were world champions, you have a problem.
Ken Shamrock said, that's a great way of putting it. That's the thing that I don't get. And, there's people like that in the world in which we're always looking for somebody's weakness, somebody's faults, and then it unravels. Couples do it all the time, right, Frank? The marital couple, so to speak. Then the nasty personal stuff comes out. As you stated, Vince doesn't get personal and start ripping wrestlers after they're done. They're done. They're out. He's moved on, and it's over. But you raise a good point as far as a collective. And, Randy's a pretty honorable guy. You look at him, he's a hard ass when it comes to business as well. But, as you stated, how many guys can actually be wrong here? Now, last week, some people were saying, hey, after Dana White came out and said he's going to sue you back for legal fees in the past, maybe Ken's going to back off a little bit. But I'm thinking Ken Shamrock's not backing off at this point against anybody. What did you think when you saw that he says you owe him $175K?
Well, I can't really talk a whole lot on that because it's still basically in the attorney's hands. So I can't say much about it. But when it comes to owing, what does he want? I mean, what does this guy want? I mean, somebody asks me a question, what I think is right and wrong, and I give an opinion. And that's Dana White's personality. It's even with the media. When the media don't come in and shoot the right things or interview the right person or piss Dana off at any point in time, he cuts them out. You can't do that anymore. So it's not really freedom of press. It's not freedom of speech. You don't get that in the UFC. There's no such thing as that. It's what Dana White wants you to say. And to me, it's wrong. And we're at a point now in the history of MMA where there's enough things going on out there that I think people could start turning around and looking and going, you know what, we better start making some changes, because if we don't, we are going to lose anything that we've ever tried to build around MMA. It's going to fall apart. I promise you can't keep riding the ship like this and keep disrespecting people like this, and then the backlash from all years of doing that is all going to come back down on top of their heads, and the UFC is going to fall apart. And that's what you don't want to have happen. I don't want to see that happen. People go, oh, they're trying to crush the UFC. He's trying to shut the UFC down. He's trying to destroy it. I am not trying to destroy it. I'm trying to save it. Like Dana White says, oh, the little guy come under trying to save the world. I'm not trying to save the world. I see something wrong, and I'm trying to make it right. That's how I was brought up.
Ken Shamrock with us. Ken, what do you think about the state of mixed martial arts right now from the athletic standpoint? I've said, because of the monetary situation, and we always hear, and I don't really think it's true, guys that could be in the NFL are in the UFC now. It's not really true. I mean, you're going to make a hell of a lot more money. It doesn't add up. Yet some people say there's too many cards. The product's still watered down. In your day, you guys were about the fighting. It really wasn't about the sideshow. It's kind of part rock show now, part circus, part WWE. They've thrown everything into one here. What do you think, as one of the pioneers of what was mixed martial arts? What do you think about the sort of the McDonald's, somebody, a writer on Middle Easy put it well, the McDojos of the world right now, spitting fighters out. Is it a watered down product right now as a whole, not just the UFC but mixed martial arts?
Well, I think, I'm not sure we would call it watered down. I think it's. I think right now it's more of a monopoly where there's only one person controlling it, and there's not really a competition, so people aren't really getting a variety. So it would seem like it's watered down because you're seeing the same thing over and over again, the same people over and over again, and you're not getting a competition. And so people aren't getting that excitement. Like WCW when it came in with Vince, it was at its highest because there was pay-per-view wars and numbers wars, and it was exciting to watch different guys compete against one another, trying to see who was going to take the lead one week after the other. So it was definitely exciting then. Right now, you basically have a monopoly where they buy up all these organizations, and it's owned by the same person, and then people kind of see the same thing over again, the same thought process again. And so I think what people are looking for is, a variety. More of something to watch besides the same company. And that's not happening right now. And I think I've always said, I think that's when the MMA will be at its strongest, is when they actually have a choice of which fighters to watch. And the fighters have a choice of which organization to go to, and that they have powers to be able to negotiate. Right now, it's basically a controlling sport. Right now, you really can't breathe. You can't say what you want to say. You can't do what you want to do. There's no personality. There's no explosion. It's like it's all controlled by this one guy, and it's just not fun.
Ken Shamrock with us. Ken, we got to wrap it up, but on your Twitter, you've been teasing people saying you're working on something real big right now. You're going to have some announcements. Can you let us know anything before we let you go today?
Well, I'm just working on something right now. It's funny because once I started in on it, it seemed like they were all ready to go for it. And the minute I, put a call in and they talk to the other guy, all of a sudden they're getting some cold feet of whether they want to step in or not. So, I mean, like I said, it is what it is. But we'll wait and see what happens. I should find out by the end of the day. If they don't let me know by the end of the day, then I'm going to be moving on.
Ken Shamrock. Ken, it was great having you on the program. We wish you the best of luck on your crusade, and you're always welcome on MMA Meltdown, man.
All right, brother. Thanks, man. God bless.
There's Ken Shamrock with us. Very well-spoken Ken Shamrock, and stated a pretty good case. There's two sides, and there's more to two sides. In fact, there's probably 16 sides to every story, but that was a pretty compelling one right there from the Hall of Famer. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. Thanks to the Hall of Famer Ken Shamrock for joining us. A very, very intriguing conversation that we had. But we go from an intriguing conversation to the videos of the week. And we've got a nice mixture of stuff this week. A little bit something for everybody. We should give you the graphic warning once again as far as this video is concerned. If you're queasy and you're not a fan of blood, then this video is not for you. There's more blood in this video than a freaking Gwar concert. It's like a Slayer concert. It's raining blood. Buddy just keeps going with the elbows to the forehead, too. Look. It looks like paint. It looks like it's painted on the dude. Oh, that's soft. Come on, they're stopping the fight. Come on, man. What, little blood in Slovenia? Little blood? Doctor's like, no, that's it. That's it. That's it. Yeah, it's over. Winner via leakage. That's some, and that was in Slovenia, and this show is on in Slovenia. So we like to give you videos from the countries where we're on. All right, we seem to be getting a lot of videos of referees snapping. Now, last week we brought you the Polish night fight club stuff where the psychos are hitting each other over the head with axes, dressed up as knights. Pretty cool stuff. This is from the United States. This is the White Collar Fight Club. I don't know if it's a bunch of Wall Street bankers that throw it down after, but it's the White Collar Fight Club, and the referee didn't like being pushed. Crowd liked it. Hey! And look at the crowd. Everyone's like standing up. And you see, Buddy's like, what? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do? He pushes the ref. I guess the ref's bigger brother's got to come in here. Buddy's a jerk off. Kid in the orange has lost control. Another ref comes in. Nice slam here. Holds him down, cop style. What are you going to do? You see, Buddy wants to go still. Hey, Buddy. Buddy's on the ground here. He's like, hey. This is where, you know, the jiu-jitsu in the ground game helps. Yeah, the other kid's calling it now. Yeah, fight's over. Good job, kid. Good job. See you in the parking lot. Looks like fatter Steven Struve. Stefan Struve in there. Crowd wanted blood. It's like every week now we got referees, you know, slamming fighters. No brawl at the end, unfortunately, here. No brawl at the end. All right, we've talked a lot about how modern day UFC and mixed martial arts sort of taken a wrestling element with the countdown shows and the smack talk and all that type of stuff. Yet, if you're going to cut anyone any slack to be able to pull this off, it's the one and only Wanderlei Silva. And yeah, I just love Wanderlei. Even if you don't understand what he's saying, there's subtitles that you might have heard. Wanderlei Silva and Sonnen don't like each other. It's real. And you might have heard this past week while in Las Vegas at the Mr. Olympia event, Wanderlei Silva confronted Chael Sonnen. Here's a little back history. It's a video that Wanderlei put together. Now it's an extended video here. We don't have time for it, obviously, but it's an extended video, basically saying in Portuguese how he's going to smash Chael Sonnen's face in. He got in his face there a little bit. Sonnen seemed genuinely a little bit rattled at first. This is one of these fights where I hope Silva does, like, you know, really just get it done. Yet, will he? Probably gets taken down. And it's just going to be more frustrating. Silva saying he's going to do it as a gift to his people. These Brazilians, they build it up so much against Sonnen. He's in their head. He's in their head. Although I hope Wanderlei wins the fight. Joey Odessa is going to join us. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. I am Gabriel Morency. All right, let's get to our Twitter question of the week. Yushin Okami recently let go by the UFC. And, you know, there's a lot of debate online as to whether he deserved it, he didn't deserve it. Yet, do any of us deserve anything that we get in the world in which we live? So I ask you guys your thoughts on Okami being cut, fair or not. T-Bone in Las Vegas, Nevada says nothing is fair that the UFC does, but he was never going to become champion and he didn't really have much left to offer the UFC. Buddy Burton says not fair. Wait until he at least lost a couple of fights in a row. Joey Odessa had to get in. And I told you, Joey's a company guy. Adios, amigos, says Joey Odessa. Adios, amigos. Thanks for the memories. Go win a couple of fights and call us back. Told you Joey's a company guy. And we'll get to Joey a little bit later on. We'll get his thoughts on Ken Shamrock as well. Yankees freak says not fair. Guy had a great record. And you know what? He was a good gatekeeper. Chris Lieben deserves to be cut before he does. And Mark the Shark in BC says the same thing. Was a very good quality gatekeeper. They should have kept him in the company a little bit longer. That's your thoughts on Yushin Okami. My thoughts are, as I said off the top, people are going to bitch one way or another. Joey Odessa coming up next. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. An explosive show tonight with a couple of legends and Hall of Famers. Ken Shamrock joined us. You know, Ken Shamrock had been tweeting about this appearance for weeks, actually. Joey Odessa was going to set odds whether he was going to be on the show tonight with us. But, you know, we're all about, it's not about the quantity tonight with the guests. Two guests, Shamrock and Odessa. And you know what? I think Joey Odessa is probably on the other side of the coin of Ken Shamrock. Joey's tended to take the company side over the years. Joey Odessa joins us, the premier combat sport odds maker in the business. Joey, it's always a pleasure. How you doing?
Hey, what's happening tonight? First off, you know, props to Shamrock. He's one of the originals. UFC 1, we put odds up on it back in, God, it was all the way back in 1993. Shamrock opened as a 3-1 favorite against the field to win it. That Thule guy, the Samoan, or whatever he was, the sumo guy, was about 11-1. They bet him down to 4-1. Hoist was the highest, longest dog in the field. He ended up winning it. There's a little bit of 1993 history for you of UFC 1 odds that were booked out of a upstate New York sports adult entertainment club, we'll call it.
Really? That's so you were setting the numbers at a strip club, basically. How hard was it, Joey, to set numbers in the early days? And, you know, that's why you're the best. No one can say that you were doing it since UFC 1. How difficult was it back then, Joey? I mean, nowadays, we know, oh, you know, this kid was a wrestler at Nebraska, Missouri, Iowa State. There's tape on everybody. Guys have amateur fights. And these days, you know, there wasn't a lot to make. How difficult was it to make the numbers?
It was extremely difficult. I mean, it was kind of like a crapshoot. I mean, look, the longest shot in the field won. Hoist Gracie. I mean, the smallest guy in the field won. Everybody bet size back then. You know, Shamrock, you know, he had the physique, he had the wrestling, he had some guys that came in on Smith, but the majority of the money was all Thule, and he got his tooth knocked out in the very first, like the first minute of his fight. I remember, and that's when everybody looked at each other, and nobody was staring at the stage. They were all staring at the big screens watching this UFC stuff, and they said, wow, this isn't WWE. Back then, I believe it was WWF. It's now WWE. They're like, wow, this stuff is for real.
Yeah, and now, you know, 20 years later, it's still for real, but it's a hell of a lot like the WWE. I think the UFC is like the WWE, except with real, you know, real violence. But there's a lot of similarities. You know, it seems, you know, we're in a transition once again, Joe. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, Vegas sports books were only setting odds for the main events. You know, I'm talking 6-7 years ago. And now every sports book has the MMA. A lot of them are copy and paste. But it's interesting to see the transition, yet it seems like it's kind of tough once again. It's harder to make money with this stuff because the favorites, you got to lay. If the guy's going to win, you got to lay the price. You know, from a betting standpoint, do you prefer the new school or the old school?
Well, I mean, obviously from the betting standpoint, I like everybody to be as, you know, quote unquote, dumb as possible. I mean, the more people, you know, the more dead money that's out there, meaning losing money, the better it is for on both sides of the counter. I mean, the market, if everybody thinks one guy's going to win on the market and the market's wrong, I mean, Brock Lesnar, great example against Kane, you know, you compare wrestling credentials and you compare, you know, at the time fighting credentials, and you would think it would be a walkover. You know, now there's just so many resources out there, and it's not about what you know that's so important. Everybody knows the same things. It's about what you don't know. Those are the, you know, and I keep quoting, and I've been reading it, the Black Swan. Those things, that's the most important factor.
That's some pretty deep stuff, Joey. That's like pretty philosophical of you. I like this. It's not what you know, it's what you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they always say, you know, what you don't know won't hurt you. Well, when you're betting, it sure will. You know, if you find out that the guy didn't flee, you know, guy's having a problem at home, things like that, these are the things I want to know. I don't want to know the stuff that you read on the websites. I don't want the watered-down stuff. I want the phone call, and I get them. The phone call that this guy's having a problem with that. You just give me the information, I'll sort it out.
Joey Odessa said, you know, there's another expression, you know, scared money never wins. Yeah, neither does stupid money, right? Yeah, stupid money never wins either.
You know, Gabe, I've seen a lot of really, you know, what I would call really dumb people with a lot of money. I don't know how they have it, but there are a lot of people out there that...
Rich parents.
I mean, the truth is, I mean, how many times do you see a guy and go, man, how does this donkey have so much money, and I'm sitting here kicking rocks? You know what I mean? It just, I remember all through my youth, I mean, not that I got that much smarter, I just think that society's become just that much dumber, especially when it comes to fights, because the more that they read, I'll tell you what, going back to UFC 1, the preview shows really dictated what the odds on those fights were going to be. They showed the Shamrock video games over in Japan. They showed his fights and stuff. They really didn't have a lot on Royce. They really didn't pump it up, like as much as, jiu-jitsu as, one of the most prominent, I guess, parts of mixed martial arts. The submission game. Everybody was worried about, karate guys, kung fu. I mean, one guy fought with a boxing glove back then. I mean, Ken's got to laugh about that now. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah, the sport has come a long way. So, Joey, before we get to the Bellator situation, the card coming up, a couple of heavyweights, former UFC heavyweights on the card. Frankie Edgar and BJ Penn. This came, I believe, the announcement right, after we did the shows last week, actually. I think we just missed out on this. Kind of old news. Not getting a lot of publicity. Not a lot of people overly excited about this. What do you make of it? I know you're a big Frankie Edgar fan, and I'll tell you, Joey, I bet against Frankie at every Maynard fight. I bet against him in every Henderson fight. And I got nothing against him. Like, it came across that way because I bet against the kid like 6 times in a row, whatever it was. And I had BJ Penn the 2 times. But I did have Edgar in his last fight against Oliveira. I got to like Edgar here against BJ Penn. What do you make of BJ Penn? As an odds maker, how do you, what's your power rating for this guy that, now he's coming back to another weight. He's had trouble making the other weight. Now he's going to try to make 45. It's kind of ridiculous, in my opinion, Joey.
Yeah, they say after ever so many years you gain weight. I mean, I'm living proof of that. I think Rory probably could have, December, heck, they fought on my birthday, December 8th. I think Rory probably could have took it to Penn a lot worse than he did. But he fought, I want to say he fought safe, he fought smart, he fought to win. Frankie Edgar, my thoughts on Edgar. I think Edgar is just one of the most well-rounded fighters in MMA, but he's in a division that's got so much talent, and I think it's, really deep. And you have a lot of these rematches. I mean, heck, this is what, the third time that Penn's going to fight Edgar?
Yeah, it's the third fight, the trilogy. Not often you get a trilogy when one guy beat the other guy twice already. Maybe we'll see that with Pettis and Henderson in the future. Yet it was interesting. Dana White said that BJ Penn wanted to fight Benson Henderson to prove it and then fight. Yet it's a good thing he didn't, because he's not beating Benson Henderson.
That's the obvious. I mean, that's what we would say, but why would he call him out? It's what we don't know.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But what I do know is that I lost a lot of money watching BJ Penn get dismembered by Diaz. It was firsthand at that fight. I got a lot of respect for BJ Penn. I really do. But I just, I don't, and you look at the UFC, they're encouraging it by putting him on the TV show, Joey.
I think BJ Penn's one of the best mixed martial artists. I think he's going to, I could say in generations, because, I mean, there's really only going to be one generation, of my generation. There really wasn't mixed martial arts before my generation. I mean, the UFC brought it to the forefront. I mean, sure, it was out there, but nothing like now. So I would say BJ Penn ranks up there with some of the best in his prime of my generation. He's an amazing fighter. Is he getting a little bit up there in age? Has he had too many fights? I don't know, but he's always up for a challenge.
He's a warrior. He's a warrior. You can't, there's no doubt about that. The guy's got a ton of heart, and so does Frankie, right? And at least BJ won't be overpowered by a bigger man in there. Should be a good fight, actually. I just wonder if BJ won't get hurt, before the fight. As we say, Joey, I always joke about this. 80% of these fights never happen, and especially the Ultimate Fighter TV show. It's a sure thing that it's not going to happen almost.
Well, that's why I don't put a lot of this stuff up so early, because you put it up early and then you give everybody so much time to study for the, I call it studying for the exam. And then if something happens during these TV shows that we don't know about, somebody gets hurt, these little injuries, and these guys are all signed into these confidentiality agreements and stuff, which, justifiable. You got to wait till late to put these numbers up. I mean, it's the same guys. The guy that's going to bet you 2 months early is probably going to beat you. He's going to beat you to the number, obviously, unless he's completely clueless and just a total fan. You know what I mean? Like a Super Bowl future or something like that you were going to bet. But I just think that, you know, the week of the fight, 10 days before the fight, the bigger fights, you know, these, you know, the Lesnar versus, not Lesnar, Kane versus Dos Santos. I mean, that, you know, those numbers like that, you got to put that stuff up. I mean, those are
the mega
title fights. But
what do you make of? This really hasn't been made public, but Fabricio Verdum posted it on his Facebook page in Portuguese, I guess, that he's fighting the winner. He gets the winner of JDS and Kane.
Well, I mean, that'll be Kane, so Verdum will just get beat.
You don't give JDS a hope in hell here, huh?
No, I'm not saying I don't give him a hope in hell. He's got a puncher's chance, but, I mean, if Kane just doesn't get hit and follows the game plan, he'll take him down and he'll win again. I mean, actually, you know what? I mean, he beat him on the feet last time, if I'm not mistaken.
He did. Yeah, he pulverized him. He pulverized him. It's always interesting. You get the trilogy. One guy knocked one guy out immediately. It wasn't a lucky shot, but it was kind of lucky where he caught him, you know? Kane lost his balance, and he kind of got lucky where he caught him. And then Kane dominated him. So you know that Junior Dos Santos is going to be extra motivated and prepared for this fight. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't really think Verdum has a chance to beat either one of these guys. I really believe when it comes to the heavyweight division, you've got Kane, Junior a little bit below Kane, and then a lot below.
Yeah, I mean, the top 5 guys in that division, I mean, look, the big guys...
There is no top 5.
A lot of the boxing people say big guys play football.
Yeah, but there is no top 5, Joey. There's a top 2. Like, all right, you know, Miocic, Travis Brown, I guess they're top 5.
You didn't just put Miocic in the top 5.
Well, who is there? There is. That's what I'm saying.
Miocic in the top 5, please.
In the UFC's mind, he's not. He's going to be there. He's right there. Joey, who else is there? Name.
No.
All right. Who's after? Let's say Kane, JDS. Who do you got?
I'll throw. You know what? I'll throw Barnett in there.
Okay, I forgot. Barnett's back. I forgot
about Cormier in there.
Yeah, is Cormier going to light heavyweight, though? He doesn't even want to fight at heavyweight. Or he is and he doesn't.
Stipe, Miocic, no, just no.
I'm not saying he's top 5, but I'm saying who is top 5.
Let's not turn Stipe into Struve, Gabe. Let's not make it personal. It's a private joke going back a long time.
I'm surprised you didn't put your boy Roy in here.
You know, I thought about it, but I mean, results are results. Stipe is there, but I don't think Stipe is. I don't think Stipe's top 10.
Who did Stipe beat in his last fight? I lost. Who did he beat?
He beat my guy. He beat Roy. He beat him convincingly.
That's right. You know, I had Roy.
Yes, he did beat him convincingly, but
Roy Nelson,
prior to that, he did lose to Struve.
So Roy Nelson has caused me so much grief over the years, Joy. He really has. All right, we only got a couple of minutes left here. Is thinking about all the fights that Roy screwed me in. You know, either I bet on him and, he sucks. I bet against him and he knocks the guy out. Like, I can't win with this guy.
All 8 of his losses, career losses, you've been on the 8 times you probably needed them.
It's like the Miami Dolphins and the Atlanta Braves. I hate them both. And the Atlanta Falcons. I really hate the Falcons with a passion.
I just hate losing. I said it before. I don't like losing weight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't like losing at anything, so.
Well, I've already lost my hair. You know, it's, the money's gone, the hair's gone. So before we wrap it up here, Joey, I guess we hit the Shields and Maya on the radio. We got the Bellator card coming up. Chick Congo on the card. And LeVar Johnson right into the semifinals. Are they both going to win? I mean, so you're telling me the guy's fighting Beer God. That's quite the name, huh? Beer God.
And you know what's even funnier? He fights for the Trojan Free Club. It's just the God fighting for Trojan Free. I don't know. Somehow I found those words just comical.
I thought Bongfeld was one of the best. Beer Bomb. But, Beer God? Like, really?
Yeah, beer goggles.
Yeah, so Chicago. What kind of numbers we looking at here, Joey?
Czech's a big favorite. I mean, look, the other kid can hit, but he hasn't fought in quite a while. I think he's coming off a loss, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going off the top of my head here right now. But
Chicago doesn't suck either. People say he sucks. He doesn't suck. I was looking back at his record. He had the draw against Travis Brown, but he was like 5-2 in his last 7 fights. He's not an elite guy, but he doesn't suck. Congo's going to be the Bellator champion.
Congo, I mean, look, heavyweights, it's tough to make a number high enough sometimes, or low enough. You know, you got to back them off. It's got to be the perfect number because you're going to get carried out on a stretcher if if the dog gets there. If this God beer somehow knocks him out, everybody, all that dead money, because those quote unquote donkey bettors, they don't have to lose all the time. They'll catch those long shots.
I know.
Make them too high, and the same with Johnson here. I mean, I think Johnson's going to beat this Brazilian kid. I mean, it looks good on paper. It looks like what's his name, Vinicius Queiroz. I mean, it looks good on paper, but no, I'm not. I think it's going to be LeVar against Congo in the next round. If that's who they're supposed to. If that's how the matchup goes, the bracket goes.
Yeah, that's.
And I think that Congo's at least a. It pains me because I'm not a big fan of Congo, but I mean, to not make Congo at least a 5, 6, 7-1 favorite is probably to not like money, and you just got to roll the dice with it. And the same thing with LeVar. I mean,
yeah, it's the semifinals. They're both going to end up in the final. Joe, I don't want to cut you off, but we're done. Yves Levine's calling the fight. It's over.
Okay, there you go,
Joey. It's always a pleasure. Thanks a lot for taking the time to be with us. Great stuff as always.
Hey, my pleasure, Gabe. Have a good one. Win some money.
Joey Odessa, everybody, the premier combat sports odds maker in the business. MMA Meltdown continues. All right, we're done. Thanks to Ken Shamrock for joining us. I really enjoyed the conversation. And you know what? Ken stated his case, I think, in a pretty intellectual and intelligent manner. Joey Odessa was getting philosophical with us this evening. Pretty deep MMA meltdown. Hey, listen, Chick Congo's going to get it done. I think Chick Congo's going to be the Bellator heavyweight champion. And you know what? Good for Chick Congo. He gets LeVar Johnson if they're both successful. They're both big favorites. You got to be careful when laying a heavy price when betting on the heavyweights. Next week, we got Shields and Maia. Man, that's interesting. Yeah, you go against Jake Shields, you lose. Yet Maia's just been ultra aggressive right now at $170. It's hard not to like Damian Maia, especially considering the fact, the tear and that he's been on. For all of our selections, log on to SportsRageTV.com throughout the week. I post picks on a daily basis. Other than that, you're on your own. Later.